This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer? Experts in the Wire, episode 56. John Lee Dumas. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 56 of Experts on the Wire. In my mind, there's two types of marketers or routes that one could take to pursue marketing. The first is what you might hear is called a T-shaped marketer, and that is to choose one field and go in really deep on that, become a true expert. So that might be like myself, I chose SEO and I try to be a true expert in that zone. Some people might choose analytics or PPC or Snapchat or LinkedIn. Then there's kind of the entrepreneurial path, which is to always be trying to look for the new platform, the platforms or the channels that people have not yet fully utilized, that the crowds have not showed up to yet. I kind of look at my guest today, John Lee Dumas, in that second category. Now, it's not to say he's not a true expert in some channels. He's definitely one of the best when it comes to audio content and podcasting. But John is somebody that's always leading the charge for trying to find the next thing that he can utilize to help promote his business or his products. John's going to talk to us today about a couple avenues that he's seeing some success in that a lot of other people have not fully utilized yet. Now, I know a lot of the listeners of the show are into SEO or content marketing or inbound marketing, but we should always be curious about what these new channels are and what these new opportunities are. Just because you're doing SEO, that doesn't mean you just stay in your bubble and in your zone and not pay attention to everything else. We need to all be aware as digital marketers as to the other opportunities out there. When John started his podcast, EOFire, in 2012, the iTunes space, the podcasting space in iTunes was still not super crowded yet. It was starting to peak, but it was nowhere near the crowdiness that it is. That a word? Crowdiness? It was nowhere near how full it is today. I still didn't quite say that right. That's okay. But John figured out a way 4.5 years ago to leverage the iTunes platform to get massive exposure and new and noteworthy and to rank and so on and so forth. And today, John's going to tell us about two platforms. One ad platform in particular, he compares to the world of Facebook ads 4 to 5 years ago, meaning that this is a huge untapped opportunity, and he's going to tell us why it's so exciting and what he's doing in this space right now. With that said, there's some exciting episodes coming up that do focus a lot on SEO, so make sure to hit subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're going to have Mike King. He's going to demystify some technical SEO things for us. Jeff Sauer, who blew my mind with some analytics and SEO and content marketing reports. They're just amazing. I can't wait to air that episode. And then guests like Alita Solis, who's going to teach us all about international and mobile SEO. Those are areas that are very elusive to me even now. I don't focus a ton on those. So some great episodes coming up. But my guest today, John Lee Dumas, he's the host of EOFire. It's a multi-million-dollar a year business. They have over 1.5 million monthly listens. That is insane. We'll catch up to you, John, someday. Give us a little bit more time. So it's a quick conversation, but it's action-packed. I hope you enjoy it. And after the interview, make sure to stick around because I'm going to tell you how to win 2 free copies of John's new book, The Mastery Journal. That is 1 copy for 2 lucky listeners of Experts on the Wire. So stick around for that. And with that, let's get into episode 56 of Experts on the Wire with John Lee Dumas. Oh, and one quick disclaimer. My 19th century ancient heating system decided to kick on right as I started the interview with John. It hadn't turned on all day. So that's some of the noise you hear in the background. I apologize for that. I have no control over it, but I did try to mute that as much as possible. The interview is definitely still audible. Just wanted to explain what that noise is in the background. Okay, let's hit play. All right, everyone. I am very excited and honored to have John Lee Dumas on Experts on the Wire today. John, how are you?
Dan, I am fired up. I'm excited to be here. Let's do this.
Let's do it. So I want to ask you about podcasting first, then we're going to get into your book launch and then the Mastery Journal. When it comes to podcasting, EOFire in 2012, a lot of your success was getting into new and noteworthy in iTunes, but podcasting is like really crowded now, as I'm sure you know. Is it still possible, starting from scratch, to get in new and noteworthy now in 2017? What's the iTunes secret sauce?
So the iTunes secret sauce is to have people actually care about your show. So it's really important when you're going into quote unquote launch mode with your podcast. You've got to build an audience around it. You got to get excited. You've got to find people in Facebook groups that are your perfect avatars, your listeners, and get them excited about the content that you're going to be sharing. And then when it comes out, treat it like a real launch. Like, don't have this quiet, soft launch. Like, get it out there, spread it out to the world, get it out on the social media channels, and give people a reason to subscribe. Give them a reason to rate and review your show. There has to just be this overlying reason why people are going to come back, why they're going to share it with others. And so you've got to treat your podcast like a real business. You know, you're not going to launch a restaurant and just kind of like all of a sudden turn on the lights and it's on one day. You know, you're going to try to get the build up and the PR and have the ribbon cutting ceremony and, you know, have the governor come and eat there first. I mean, that's the kind of attitude you have to have when you're launching your podcast. Treat it like a show, because the reality is the professionals, they aren't coming. They're here. They're all here. They weren't here in 2012 when I launched, but they're here today. And so it's just something that you got to be aware of and be focused on.
I love it. You mentioned Facebook groups. Can you give one quick tip for how people can find relevant Facebook groups?
So Facebook groups are out there. They're something that there's conversations there every single day around relevant topics and around niche topics. So you can use the search bar in Facebook and just search for specific groups that are talking about specific topics. For instance, if I was going to launch a ballet podcast, like I don't know why I would do that, but if I was, I would get into the top 2 or 3 Facebook groups that are talking about ballet and the struggles and the obstacles and the challenges and the wins and the successes. And I would become a valuable member of those Facebook groups by asking a question, answering a question, giving a piece of support, a piece of guidance every single day. I'm not saying spend 30 minutes in there. Spend 5 minutes in there doing those 4 things. And before you know it, you'll have built a know, like, and trust with the rest of the community there, because they're seeing your avatar, they're seeing the value that you're providing, and they're going to appreciate that, because that's why groups in Facebook are successful, because they have active giving members. Be one of those.
As far as the mechanism in iTunes, is it the subscription velocity? That's what I hear about podcasting. Is that the actual metric?
Nobody knows the metric. I don't even know if people at iTunes know the metric. It's just one of these things where years and years ago, somebody created some weird algorithm, and that's what it is. I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with ratings, something to do with reviews, something to do with the amount of subscribers you have, something to do with the amount of subscribers you're losing, you know, something to do with the amount of downloads you have. Nobody knows. Trying to overanalyze it is a mistake. The focus needs to be, hey, I'm going to work on creating the best show that I can, delivering the most value that I can, so that my actual listeners go out to other people and say, you need to listen to this show. That's how you're going to grow your audience.
I'm glad you mentioned reviews. I want to ask you about asking for things. We put your tweets, all of them, including replies, into a word cloud thing. The phrase that came back the most was you basically saying to replies, I would appreciate a review on iTunes. So you're not scared at all to ask for reviews. Were you ever shy about that? Does that ever turn people off? And can you speak to the value of asking for things?
So I think it's important to be willing and able to ask for things. That's really critical. Now, one thing I will say, it has to be done in the right manner. And I was never nervous about doing that and asking for things, because I would do it in the right manner. Meaning, if you look at those Twitter conversations, I'm never reaching out to people and asking for a rating and review for my podcast. Every one of those is a reply to somebody who's tweeted me and said, John, love the show, or John, I have a question about podcasting, or John this or John that. And then I respond either with a thank you or with a reply to their answer and say, oh, by the way, you know, thank you for the kind words. If you wouldn't mind, or if you think it's deserving, I would so appreciate a rating and review on iTunes. What do you say? And a lot of these people, you know, who again have just gone out of their way to ask me a question or to thank me for an episode or something, they're thrilled to be able to give back and show their appreciation with something like a meaningful iTunes review. And that's one of the reasons why I have over 2,400 reviews on iTunes, which is a massive number, because I ask the right way, never blindly, never cold, but saying, oh, you reached out to me, you asked for something, I'm giving it to you. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love a rating and review. And if you don't want to, no problem. But if you do, love you.
I love that. And the context really matters there. So one last podcasting question. You've interviewed over 1,500 people, but in a very short amount of time, right? That's one person every day of the week. So that's a lot of guests. What makes a really memorable guest for you, given the amount of quantity of guests you've interviewed?
Somebody that's able and willing to tell a story. Now, that's not as easy as it sounds. And, a lot of people struggle telling stories. And a lot of people have a hard time going to that moment in time. And that's why I really try to hold people's feet to the fire and say, hey, take us to a single moment, your worst entrepreneurial moment, and tell us that story. And I really want to walk people into that in that story format. And people that can tell interesting, gripping, engaging stories, they will hold your attention, because we as humans, we love stories. We fall in love with the stories, and we connect with the individual when we resonate with their story. So people that are able and willing to tell stories in a meaningful way, those are the winners.
Absolutely agree. So now I want to talk a little bit about promoting a Kickstarter, a book on a Kickstarter launch. So you've now done this twice. You're in the middle of the second launch. Your first book, The Freedom Journal, it's sold, as of today, 19,098 copies. You have a nice little ticker on your website. Your second book, you're already $175,000 over your goal amount to be backed for the new book, The Mastery Journal. You've mentioned that Kickstarter makes an amazing sales page. What's so awesome about Kickstarter for a sales page, and what are some tips that people can put into creating their own sales pages?
So if you're going to be good and successful at business, you have to understand psychology. And Kickstarter is a great psychology play, and a lot of people don't even understand how or why. So I'll kind of break that down for you. With a thing like Kickstarter, guess what? If you put out there a funding goal of the fact that you need to reach a funding goal in order to create this product, this service, this community, fill in the blank, and you don't make it, then the project is not funded, and everybody who pledged to that campaign gets their money back. Now, what does that do exactly in the psychological sense? It means that you can launch a project and say, oh, John, like, you're my buddy. Like, I would so appreciate your support. I can look at it and be like, you know what? There's a chance that I'm going to support this project and that it's not going to get funded. And then I get my money back. So what do I get then? I get the benefits, and I get the recognition of having supported my buddy, my friends, because I went out there. I said, hey, I'll pledge $100 to your project. So I get 100% credit for supporting and pledging. But if it doesn't come to fruition, then I get my money back. And it's like that double win-win. And that's where Kickstarter wins, because a lot of people are saying, you know what? I'm willing to pledge because, number one, I want to support this person. But number two, there's a chance I'm going to get my money back on this too, and get the credit and my money back. And that's the best win-win. Now, that's one psychological play of Kickstarter that a lot of people haven't really thought through what makes it very valuable. Another thing is it's third party, it's independent. So like, you went to my ticker on my site, which, I have no reason to lie, but the fact is that's my website. That ticker of 19,098 journals could be a fictitious number. But guess what? Kickstarter's third party. So people can go there and see that, we're at $200,000 pledged, that we're at over 2,600 backers. I can't change those numbers, and Kickstarter, of course, is just going to report the right numbers. So now there's real, undeniable proof that there's been legitimate support for this project, and people like that because that credibility leads. That's why we love looking at the reviews on Amazon, because we can't configure those reviews as the author. So those are real reviews from real people.
Now that number, the 25,000 that you wanted to get backed, was that intentionally low for what you needed to make it look like amazing that so many more people backed you? Was that just the actual number? Was there any strategy behind that 25,000 number?
I think what's important about your pledge number is that you think of a number that you say, this is the dollar amount that would make it worthwhile for me to create this project. And for me, that was $25,000. I said, hey, if I can get people willing to pledge up to $25,000 total for this journal, then I know that there's going to be enough interest for it to be an ongoing project. And so that's where the $25,000 came from. And I think that that's important for people to realize that, hey, what's that number that it makes sense? Like, don't make it a low number that, just because it's going to be easy to get to, because then you're losing, the entire sense of what it means to be running a crowdfunding campaign. It has to be a number that if you hit it, then it's like, okay, now I have proof of concept. Now I'm going to drive forward.
That makes sense. On Mixergy, your interview with Mr. G, I'll link to it in the show notes. You said email is the only metric that matters. You were referring to promoting this Kickstarter. Can you explain that?
So I'm not exactly sure what I said there because I've just done a lot of interviews.
Sure.
But
I'd be happy to give you the context. You were talking about, you emailed every single prior guest that was on EOFire to ask them for help in promoting it. And one of the things a lot of people did was email their lists. And I think that was the context of it. And so did you mean that I totally get it now. So what I meant by that was, it's only going to make a noticeable difference in my campaign if somebody who's willing to support the Mastery Journal Kickstarter campaign emails to their list. Anybody that promised a tweet, I was almost like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, that's literally less than nothing. It's not going to make a dent because Twitter's a fire hose. It's broken. It's broken. A Facebook post, I do say, like, hey, if you have a very active Facebook page, if you want to accompany a Facebook post with your email, I would really appreciate that. But I just knew deep down from real numbers that people are going to take action on an email. And if somebody's been able to build up an email list that has an engaged audience, and then they read about something that person's recommending, and they can click in that email or tap it if they're on their phone and be taken right to that call to action, that's going to make the difference. And so that's where I was just like, email. And oh, by the way, if you also want to accompany it with Facebook, then cool. I get it. So the metric was email versus a tweet. That's because you were getting the ROI from the emails.
Yeah, or a Google Plus post or a LinkedIn, whatever. It just, nothing matters except email. And again, down the metric a little bit, but still can be valuable, a Facebook post. I mean, if you're Amy Porterfield, if you're Pat Flynn, both of whom use that posted on their Facebook page for the Mastery Journal, that made waves, but most people aren't them.
You also mentioned Amazon ads in that same Mixergy interview. In the context, you said that it was like Facebook ads were 4 to 5 years ago. That really piqued my attention. You said it's a huge untapped opportunity. What's so exciting about Amazon ads right now?
Just that nobody's doing it, and that nobody gets it, and that nobody's putting the time, energy, and effort into it. Just like Facebook ads 4 or 5 years ago, or Google ads, however many years ago that'd be now, like maybe even like 10 or 15, but probably more like 15. People just haven't got there yet because, it's hard to get a product into the Amazon store. And so you have to go through all these processes to get there. And then you're going to spend some more bandwidth on Amazon ads to get, the sponsor tab, et cetera. And so we're getting, incredible cost per conversion, meaning that like I'm basically spending, $3 to get somebody to buy a $39 journal, where even after Amazon's fees, I'm still way in the green. So just the numbers work really well. Just like the numbers work well on Facebook ads for a lot of people. But I don't think I'd be able to make Facebook ads work for a $39 physical product. I can make it work for a $1,000 virtual course like Podcaster's Paradise. But you just have to just know the metrics and make it happen.
Are you still paying per click, or are you paying per sale, percentage of sale?
For Amazon?
Yes, for Amazon.
It's per click.
Per click. Okay. What's about the CPC right now for that? Do you know?
So they use a different metric. They have what's called AOS, which is it's like a percentage of the overall spend. So basically, like, you want the lower percentage, the better. So if you can be anywhere from a 5 to like 20% AOS, you're winning. Excellent.
So sometimes I give my guests a really quick SEO tip if I feel like it's going to add value to you and my listeners. I have one quick 30-second tip for you, John. That is both your Freedom Journal and Kickstarter page. They rank really great in Google for Freedom Journal terms, but not Gold Journal. You're at the bottom of page 1. So just a little quick tip for you. If you add the phrasing Gold Journal, things like that, into your Kickstarter and the freedomjournal.com, hopefully the title tag, you could probably get some more visibility for those goal-oriented terms. There's like thousands of searches a month, and it might help you drive some more sales.
I love that advice.
Yeah, so I want to give you that quick tip. Now, I want to ask you about the Mastery Journal. We have about 3.5 minutes. I've got this literally timed out by the minute in my notes here. So we've got 3.5 minutes. I want to ask you about the Mastery Journal. Give us your quick 60-second or so pitch on the Mastery Journal.
So I think all of us as entrepreneurs have to look inwards to what our strengths are, and we need to work on focusing to improve those strengths. And now I looked at me and I realized that I had 3 mighty strengths. I have thousands of weaknesses, but I have 3 strengths that I really do well with, and that's productivity, discipline, and focus. So I looked at that and I said, well, I know a lot of people struggle with these, and the reality is, if you want to be successful in this world as an entrepreneur, you have to have all 3 of these skills at some level. So I created the Mastery Journal as a guide to teach other people how to master productivity, discipline, and focus in 100 days.
I love it. So many of my listeners are marketers, consultants, freelancers. They're working in a marketing company. How specifically could that book help somebody like them in their position?
Oftentimes, people are busy working every single day, but they're not accomplishing anything of value. And this is going to make sure that you're productive, that you are actually producing the right content day in and day out that's moving your business forward. Disciplined. You are now, for most of us, for the first time, going to be creating a plan of action every single day and then actually executing that plan instead of just seeing what comes up next around the corner. And then third, focus. You're going to just have that one course that you're going to follow until success. And that laser focus is really going to help you intraday get to where you need to be. So those 3 keys, productivity, discipline, and focus, are going to be added to your life, to your business, and you're going to make huge strides. And I like to say, if you use and follow the Mastery Journal, you're going to get more accomplished in one day than you used to get done in 1 week. And I truly believe that.
Great selling point. I'm giving away 2 copies of the book. I'm going to talk about more of that after our interview. One last quick question. I was Googling your name and searching all the auto-suggest things that came up, and I saw John Lee Dumas, The Price is Right. Tell us about that.
Love all this homework you do. This is great. So 2011, it was Veterans Day. I drove up to the Price is Right studio with my ex-girlfriends. And as I was in line going into the studio, they said, why do you think you should be on The Price is Right? And it's like a question I ask everybody as they're like entering into the studio. And I just said, you know what? I'm just a veteran here on Veterans Day, happy to be alive. And so, of course, they chose me as number 1. And I played the worst game of The Price is Right you can play, got all of the things wrong. And then at the very end, I bid $1 for the very last showcase. So I was 0 for 5. Then I won the last one, number 6, and got up there. It was a putting game for a car, missed the first putt, got a second chance, sunk it, and won a car.
Wow, it's amazing. I actually have that video. I'm going to link it up in the show notes. John, thank you so much for joining us, giving us your time generously today. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to close this by saying I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope everyone checks out the Mastery Journal. And John, I'm going to be on your show soon, so I look forward to that.
Dan, we'll have a great chat. Faux show.
Awesome. Take care, John.
Later.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that interview with John Lee Dumas as much as I did. Now, to enter the contest, what I would love for you to do is head to the comment section of this episode. I'm going to create a short link for you. You can go to evolvingseo.com/56. You can, of course, navigate through the website to get to that, but evolvingseo.com/56 should redirect you to the landing page for this interview with John Lee Dumas. In the comments section, just simply leave a comment and tell me one thing, beyond just great show. Like, leave a comment and tell me one thing that you took away from this episode, or one thing that you've taken away from any recent Experts on the Wire episode, or better yet, something that you've actually implemented. I love when I hear people telling me about things that they've taken and heard on this podcast and implemented into their show, into your marketing work. So leave me a comment. I'm going to give a little extra points to people that have actually implemented something, and tell me about that. But we're going to choose 2 people at random to each win a copy of the Mastery Journal, and then we'll coordinate addresses and everything via email. And once again, if you can go to iTunes and hit subscribe, or Google Play, or Player.fm, or Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe, I would love for you to do that. There's some fantastic shows coming up soon, and we'll see everyone next time on the next episode of Experts on the Wire.